So here we are, we settled our contract.
Woo!
I'd like to tell you about some of the gains that we made in that contract and what that all means for us now and then going forward in our work for better working conditions and more justice in the UC system. Before I say that, I just want to say for a lot of us in the union that are current officers, this contract campaign is kind of like our farewell campaign, and that's the case for me in particular, and for other people like Matthew Sandoval. Some of us that have been around for a while doing this work, like Aaron Conley, have already gone. And so there is a task before us, and for all of you who are now getting involved in the union or have been mobilized in this last year to continue the work we've all been doing going forward. And based on what's happened this last year, I'm really optimistic about what our prospects are with everyone that's gotten involved. 3 years ago when we came in, just to be really honest, there was only a couple of active people in the union. There was just 3 or 4 people who did the union work. There wasn't a lot of mobilization. There wasn't a lot of activity. And as a result of that, the contract 3 years ago that was signed on to, the 2010 contract, I guess it's 4 years now, had a 6% wage increase over that 3-year period. Woo! It had nothing on other justice except for they did get a bump in the childcare subsidy, and they should be acknowledged for doing that. But let's talk about what we got this time. And we got so much that I might actually forget some of these things. And that's real. That's on the real. So, first of all, we won a grievable right for students who require gender-neutral bathrooms, for TAs that require that when they're working, to be able to access those bathrooms. Bathrooms would also have changing stations, and we also got a grievable right to lactation stations. So, it seems kind of, well, I won't say it seems, it is fucked up that we even have to fight for some of our workers to be able to pee in safety, right? It seems like the right to pee should be a given, but it wasn't. And we had to do a lot of mobilization to get that. But we got it. We did that mobilization, we got it. And that's huge. And to our knowledge, we're the only union that has won that as a right enshrined into the contract. So, when it comes to family support, not only did we get lactation stations guaranteed as a grievable right, but we also increased the child care subsidy from $600 a quarter to $900 a quarter. Obviously there's a ways to go on that. There's a ways to go because that's not enough to fully cover that cost. And with our wages, it means you better have some other source of income, right? But it makes a big difference. That extra $300 makes a big difference. And maybe the most exciting part about what we won on childcare was we increased the age up to 12 years of age, whereas before the subsidy only applied to non-school age children. So as soon as you start sending your kid to preschool, you don't get your subsidy. Now you get it all the way up to age 12, through age 12, through age 12. We got increased rights for maternity leave and other kinds of personal leave when you're TAing, right? So that if you do the crazy thing and decide to start a family, in your mid-20s or mid-30s while, you get engaging in your academic career, it's a little bit easier to do that now, and that's a big deal, right? A big part of our campaign and something we really wanted to fight against in this campaign was the idea that when we come to grad school, if this isn't our sole focus, if we aren't dehumanizing ourselves and grinding ourselves into nothing but an instrument of this academy, nothing but a future professor, nothing but somebody competing for a limited tenure track job, that somehow we weren't committed, somehow we were unbelonging, and we wanted to, and we did successfully fight, protect the idea that when we're here, no matter how much we love it, this is our job, it's not our whole lives. We have the right to have families, we have the right to have support, we have the right to be supported by our workplace, and these bosses aren't something special, they wanted to tell us that this was a different kind of workplace. Can you imagine some other employers saying, look, you know, if you decide to have a partner or you decide to have a kid, that's not our problem. We're not going to account for that at all. The package we offer you is structurally designed to exclude anyone who's not a single individual living with a roommate that's not their partner. That's bullshit, and we fought it and we won. Now, there's two other big demands that we got, like, other than wages, and they're important things to talk about specifically because they lay out the work ahead of us. One was our demand for greater support for undocumented students. We have an agreement with management that we are going to continue working on that over the next year and find a way to make sure that admitted, undocumented graduate students have the ability to TA and support themselves the way that everyone else does. And that's something we're going to have to keep pushing on. Similar with class size, management has agreed to have 2 campus-wide meetings per year in which we can come and discuss class size trends. That comes with the right to access data and acquire data so that we can come and make the case we need to make. And then finally our wages. Now, I'll be honest with you, I personally would have liked to see us get a much bigger wage increase. Much bigger. But our wage increase is something we should also be proud of. While not holding on to this and saying things are great and, you know, we did it, we should also say we did it. Yeah. Because before we were mobilized as a campus, before we were one of the strongest mobilized campuses in the UC system, our prior contract gave us 6% over a 3-year period, 6% total. That's what we got without mobilization. And with the level of mobilization that we had at UCLA, our 4-year contract has a 16% wage increase, and when that interest is compounded, it's a 17% wage increase. The PAs are going to be making in the neighborhood of $1,500 to $2,000 more per year based on the gains we made. And that's significant. And we did it, and that was us, and that's the difference. Now, there's one major concession we made. And on the one hand, we should be proud of ourselves, given the current state of organized labor, that we only had one concession, right? Most union contracts are nothing but concessions. And our concession was that we agreed to a 4-year duration going forward. That means for 4 years, we can't do the things that got us here, in particular, striking. Our contract means that striking is illegal during that period, right?
Wildcat strikes.
And there's definitely other options out there. As a union officer, I obviously have to say that wildcat striking is illegal and the union is opposed to it. But if TAs just so happen to decide to wildcat at any point in an organized way, I guess that's a problem we just have to deal with when the time comes. I sure hope it doesn't happen. But that's the point that I think is part of our ongoing work. What we need to remember going forward is how we got here. The difference between our last contract and this contract is because of the mobilization. It is because of the strikes. It is because when management abused us with unfair labor practices, we said, fuck you, we're not going to take it. We're not going to keep doing work in your system. You can't take our labor for granted. If we don't get fair treatment, we're withdrawing our labor. And we have the legal right to do it, and we're going to use it. And that was the difference. Now, as a member of the bargaining team, having been on the bargaining team for the last year, I want to make something really clear. If there's one thing that I want to say from that experience is there wasn't a single point when we were at the table negotiating with them that they said that they could not possibly give us what we were asking for. for. They wanted the status quo, and they said, look, we're really on your side. We understand.
Bullshit.
But we just can't do it. We've got X, Y, and Z reason. It sounded very nice, and it might have been very convincing on some people, but not for us. Not for this group right here. And because of that, we made these gains that management said in every single case they could not possibly give us, right? And that's because we made the cost of the status quo greater than the cost of change. Now, when we go forward, that's applicable to three things really directly. And I mean this in a way of not just this principled point, but of things that should inform our work next year directly. One, with this 4-year duration, we cannot let people forget what got us here and why that was. It was not something that was just going to happen. We had to do this mobilizing to get it. And if we forget that, we're going to go back to 2% wage increases. We're not going to make gains on these other things. And we're going to be saying, oh geez, tough economic times to our own members just to justify it, right? We're going to be saying management lines. Second, on, I guess it's second, now and third, on class size and the undocumented student issues, management is going to say the exact same things as we continue to talk to them. We're going to come to these meetings and we're going to talk about the need to fight the racism in the university, the need to include all graduate students in the professional life of academics. We're going to talk about what good pedagogy is and how it's not 25 or 30 person section sizes. We're going to be making these cases, and they're going to say the exact same things. They're going to say, oh geez, we really agree with you. We sympathize with your point. We're actually on the same side, but we just can't do it. And when that happens, we need to remember that if we want to actually see different outcomes in this university, we have to continue making the cost of the status quo greater than the cost of change for them. And maybe we can't strike to do it, but we're pretty creative. You know, I hear graduate students are kind of a smart bunch. We can figure out a way to make that the case. So in closing, thank you so much for your work. However you vote, yes or no on the contract, you know, well, let me put it this way. If you send us back to bargain, management legally can't take anything off the table that they've offered. We stay in the exact same place. And as a bargaining team member, of course, vote yes on the contract. I couldn't even legally tell you to vote no. But if you all decided that 16% wasn't enough, I'd be happy to go back and continue working for you. And thank you for all the work you've been doing over the last year.
All right, as most of you know, technically our strike was going to be about the unfair labor practices, the ULPs, right? So things that happened in the process of bargaining that like illegal intimidation leading up to the strike, including intimidating emails, threats that if you strike you'll never work in this department again, but also, especially in April, including illegal arrests of our union members and their supporters at a legal picket at UC Santa Cruz. There'll be a press release that basically says the unfair labor practices have been resolved or in the process of resolution. For a number of these, what that means is that management has agreed to some sort of redressing of the unfair practices. For instance, at one campus, there was punitive excessive docking of pay for an hour of striking. And on that campus, some of that pay will be returned. For other things, we've agreed to work through and exclusively through the filing process with the Public Employee Relations Board, also called PERB, and in that sense, they're in the process is being resolved. But I want to be absolutely clear about something. As of today, at least, the union members and students who were arrested at UC Santa Cruz, there are still outstanding charges. The district attorney has promised to drop the criminal charges, but he hasn't done it yet. And student code of conduct charges are still moving forward. So I think, like, in the process of this day of action, it's really important that as we celebrate the things that we have won, we return the solidarity of our student allies, solidarity that caused them to put their bodies on the line and eventually get arrested, hauled off in a sort of modified group bus. So just keep that in mind as the day progresses, and continue through whatever means you feel are necessary and appropriate to push for the dropping of the charges against the UCSC 22.
Hi everyone. I just want to say first that this has meant a lot to me, and this is my first major political campaign, and I'm really fired up for more stuff. But I just wanted to say a couple of things. I think that one of our points moving forward should be that we need to start thinking about hikes in undergraduate fees. And we've heard things from the regents and from President Napolitano that these fee increases are coming. And I think that we need to keep in mind that these things are never set in stone. And when they say that there's no more money, we say bullshit.
Bullshit! Bullshit!
There can be organizations that run out of money, but no organization is running out of money when they're building a $30 to $40 million new basketball facility. No institution is running out of money that pays its football coach $2.5 million. So I think that it's very important. One of the takeaways from this campaign is that we don't take their word on these things. And I think that we need to build a coalition, that we need to build with undergraduates, and we need to oppose any fee hikes at all costs.
No fee hikes!
No fee hikes. No fee hikes, because this is not the university of the unelected, unaccountable UC Regents. This is not the university of someone who deported 1.6 million people. This is not the university of overpaid upper-level UC administration. And this is not the university of the UCPD. So I think we need to keep that in mind, and we need to build these relationships with undergraduate groups and oppose fee hikes at all costs. Because we know this is coming, they've told it to us, and they want to make it inevitable, and they want to make it as painless as possible, but we're not going to let them do that. Mic check!
Mic check!
Mic check!
Mic check!
Hello everyone, so I'm from, well, I haven't been active lately, but basically I'm an undergraduate, a student here at UCLA. The reason that I'm out here is because I believe that there's a common struggle between graduate students, between undergraduate students, between workers, and between people in the community. There has been a constant attack on public education, increasing tuition, running the university as a business, having a curriculum that is based on commodity and not on real education. So that's what I'm here. I'm here to actually create another kind of university, create another kind of society that encompasses everyone, not just the privileged, not just the ones who have money and the time to actually create this kind of repressive system. But I'm here to support you. I'm here to question the position of Janet Napolitano, who we know is someone who is not prepared for this position since she has no background in education. She has a horrible history in human rights violations in detention centers run by private corporations. And we all know that she ran for the position not because of her dedication for education, but because her annual income was going to increase more than double than her previous position as head of the Department of Homeland Security. And so I'm here to invite everyone who is on campus to come here and to protest for basically the fight for more quality education here on campus. So thank you for hearing me, and hope to hear you all.
Hello everybody. I'm Matthew. I'm also an undergraduate student here, and I just want to really emphasize, the administration will never agree to demands. They're never going to just concede. They're never going to give up raises. They're never going to give up their Mercedes E-Class. They're never going to give up their 5 Series. They're never going to give up their Beverly Hills homes, and they're never going to give up their fancy offices for us. They say that we're the people that matter. We're the students. The administration says that they're working for us. Yet we are the ones living packed 6 people to dorm rooms and 6 people to 1-bedroom apartments and things like that. We are always pushing against this tidal wave of administration. I posted this on Facebook the other day. The administration is a system. A system preserves itself. That is the entire goal of an administration, to increase itself and to protect itself. That is why this is so important. Organization is so important because we push against that. We are our own system that tries to emphasize our own demands and our own goals. So when they demand that their wage increases continue while our tuition hikes up and TAs and graduate students and etc., all of us have to suffer financially, that's not okay. We have to organize against that. And when the administration responds to demands, such as they responded to the recent Black Bruin video by creating another 6-figure position for a vice chancellor that's probably going to be another white guy, rather than creating scholarships for black students, that's a problem. They're just covering their own asses. They are not out for us. Never forget that.
When student rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
When student rights are under attack, what do we do?
Stand up, fight back.
No justice. No justice. No justice. No justice. Whose university?
Our university.
Whose university?
Our university.
Whose plaza?
Our plaza.
Whose plaza?
Our plaza.
Okay, we're gonna start a picket line around the chalkers. They need our support. We're gonna start a picket line around the chalkers.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Where the union's inspiration through the workers' blood shall run. There can be no power greater anywhere beneath the sun. Yet what force on earth is weaker than the feeble strength of one? For the union makes us strong. Everybody! Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. It is we who plowed the prairies, built the cities where they trade, dug the mines and built the workshops and the smiles of railroad laid. Now we stand our past and start to miss the wonders we have made, but the union makes us strong. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. Though the world is owned by idle drones, it's ours and ours alone. We have laid the wide foundations, built it skyward stone by stone. It is ours not to slave but to master and to own. Though the union makes us strong. Come on now. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. One more. They have taken off the millions that they never toiled to earn. But without our brain and muscle, not a single wheel would turn. We can break their haughty power, gain our freedom when we learn that the union makes us strong. Come on now. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. For the union makes us strong. One more now. In our hands is placed a power greater than their hoard and gold, greater than the might of armies magnified 1,000-fold. We can bring to birth a new world from the ashes of the old, for the union makes us strong. Acapella. Solidarity forever. Solidarity